We will now begin our second half of this hearing. Sergeant at Arms, please clear the floor. We will continue our hearing, and then also, once we finish this lightning round for the Office of Children and Families, Free Library of Philadelphia, Parks and Recreation, and Department of Human Services, we will hear testimony from the Department of Commerce and Mural Arts. I feel that energy from Jane Golden all the way over there. Hey, Jane. That's what I'm talking about. Murals do matter. At this time, the chair recognizes the chair of Parks and Recreation and also the chair of Children's and Youth Committees, Councilmember Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Council President Kenyatta Johnson. I'm interested in receiving the following sometime in the near future or soon. Our Councilwoman Jamie Gaudier mentioned something that I think was really important, is that there's levels of capital investment in recreation centers across the nation. And compared to the city of Philadelphia, we're not doing a great job with capital investments when it comes to recreation centers. So what I think would be really helpful for us is to get a infrastructure plan from our recreation centers and also our parks to let us know how much funding it would take for us to do a massive capital campaign to renovate all of our centers within a time frame that is appropriate. And right now, even with the $152 million that is currently being allocated to Parks and what is suggested as being allocated from the administration to Parks and Rec, we don't know where that's going and how that's going to go, right? I think transparency with the public is important because we hear all the time how important that is. So how we're going to be, what are ways that we're going to make sure that we have a very strong capital programs that can, recommendations from the department? Oh, that's a statement. Well, hold on. And also, while you're thinking of that, how will the department fill the increasing numbers of vacancies for Recreation Leader 1 positions, considering that the budgeted positions for the feeder class Recreation Leader trainees are significantly lower than the current vacancies?
So thank you for that, Councilman. We're going to have our Deputy Commissioner, Marissa Washington, come up.
Good afternoon, Councilman. So the Recreation Leader Trainee and the Recreation Leader 1, they are really the same position. So when you look at the budgeted positions, you should put them together because a Rec Leader Trainee after 12 months automatically promotes up to a 1. With that being said, we do have a significant number of vacancies. Right now, we are going through the interview process for Rec Leader Trainees. Fingers crossed, we have 23 people that we interviewed. Hopefully, they will accept the position and all pass the onboarding. So we'll have 23 folks starting. But with that, we will still have roughly probably about 40 vacancies in the trainee. So we will re-announce again to see if we can get new candidates on the list. That's something we're probably doing every year.
And how are you making these positions attractive for the individuals that have vacant positions?
So one of the things that we've done probably over the last 4 or 5 years, so we have opened up the qualifications. So at one point there were a certain type of degrees that were accepted. We've opened it up now where we are accepting more degrees. Also, if folks have a certain amount of experience, especially in our recreation facilities, that helps to give them credit. We also have done a lot of recruiting with the support of the Office of Human Resources, reaching out to local universities and colleges to promote our positions.
Just real quick, 30-second question. This is actually for the Free Library. The library received approximately $9.7 million in state funding in 2024, most of which went to the library materials and some property management projects. Currently, all libraries, with the exception of those closed for renovations, have stable 5-day service. In light of the stability in library services and recent funding allocations, what plans does the Free Library have to further to develop its role as a community hub, citing Wilmington, Delaware's library system where they're transforming the library space and making it more of a community hub where individuals can gather for social and education events and utilize the space to connect in various ways? Are we putting together a capital program or campaign to really transform our libraries? Because as Council Member Isaiah Thomas said earlier, only a small percentage of people are utilizing their library cards. What are we doing to take it to the next level?
Thank you, Councilman Phillips. That's a pretty broad question. Sorry, I didn't get the word question out of my mouth. The library is, our biggest focus for the last 2 years, and we really appreciate the support from council, has been opening the buildings. We've been closing anywhere from 15 to 20 of our locations or more every day, and we really appreciate the support to have 5-day stable service now, and we're on our way to 6-day stable service. We've got about 27 of our locations that are open now on Saturdays, and once we complete that number and get it up to 54, where we have all our 54 of our branches open on Saturdays, we're going to be moving toward Sundays. But, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So we're also looking at our programming efforts, and we know what Wilmington is doing. There are 2 locations. We've got 54, so we've got to be very strategic in the programming efforts that we provide based on our community, our communities and the different needs and the objectives we have for each one of those locations. We are building a team. We have a new adult services division that we didn't have before, where different programming was kind of scattered throughout the system. But we're working hard on doing just what you're saying, providing a robust level of programming throughout our community. Currently, right now, we do about 26 to 30,000 programs a year, and have about 600,000 people come into the library, and we expect those numbers to increase going forward.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jamie Gaudier.
Thank you, Council President. My next set of questions are about the Juvenile Justice Services Center. So first, I want to acknowledge our really good and hard work in bringing the census down. It's amazing that we're at 186 today, which is just 2 above, what sort of the capacity is. And I want to commend you, Commissioner Ali, as well as Councilmember Jones, the Law Department, and, the whole Public Safety Committee of City Council for getting to where we are. But we know that this is something that we have to keep pressing on, right? Because at times we've seen that population or that facility holding as many as 242 young people with a capacity of 184, and that's led to some horrible conditions. Kids sleeping on floors, conditions that we would not want our young people to be in. We know the factors that caused these conditions, a lack of state placements and understaffing, which I know that we are already working on. I want to make sure that we keep up the good momentum as we're heading into FY25. And for the last few months, my office has been researching how we can continue to keep the census down, how we can reduce the number of kids who even have to go to PJJSC in the first place, how we can improve conditions and services, and ensure that kids returning from detention or placement are integrated effectively back into their communities, because they are the future leaders of our city. I wanted to talk a little bit about placement. So the primary driver for overcrowding has been a lack of beds in state placement facilities. As a result, kids wait months for an opening. And I commend my colleague, Councilmember Jones, for his resolution calling for a lawsuit against the state, which has produced some tremendous results and gotten a different type of action than we were getting before. However, even though we're pressing on the state to do its job, no one is going to care about our kids and take care of our kids like we will, right, here in the city of Philadelphia. And so I'm invested in working just as hard to find solutions that can help at a local level. For the last 3 years, DHS has put out an RFP for mid-level placement in Philadelphia, and we've not received a response. So Commissioner Deputy Managing Director, can you speak to this situation? Why are we having trouble using the funds that were budgeted to provide local placement options for young people? What is the impact of not having these services on the PJJSC census in an ongoing manner? And what do we plan to do differently this year to actually get a response to that, or responses to that RFP?
So thank you for that question. You are correct in that the department did issue a request for a proposal 3 times. And we actually did get individuals who bid on the proposal. I'll talk about the first round. The first round, we were very much interested because we were aware that we couldn't attract providers, and so we put in the RFP that even if the provider did not have a facility, that we will walk alongside them to build a facility, to locate a residential location. Smaller is certainly better for young people, and then to help them along that process so that we can contract with them. Our plans were well underway. The particular provider had a leadership change, and so we found out about 3 months ago that we were not continuing to go into that direction. They indicated, the new leadership indicated that they were still willing to locate a facility. However, we need to pivot because they pulled out, if you will. And so what we plan on doing is reissuing the RFP again. We believe that it probably was too complex. As you know, we were asking for multiple services. We want to be more targeted. So the next target will be for a female community-based detention center. As Vanessa indicated, we're looking at our female population that is beginning to grow, and so we want to relieve some of that pressure at the PJJSC, but then we also are going to look for a smaller group home. Again, a provider can have an existing building or not. So if they do not, what we want to do, again, work alongside of them. In terms of how council can help, any individual that you know that is interested or provider that's interested in becoming a residential provider for delinquent young people to provide them the appropriate treatment and supervision, we certainly will want them to apply to the RFP. And so when it is posted, as we do with other RFPs, we will circulate that again with City Council. We will also circulate it with our juvenile justice stakeholders so that we can identify a provider.
And can you just expound, was the group that pulled out, were they the only organization that responded?
Yes, to the building your own, yes.
Do you have an idea about why, one, we've issued this 3 times, and then when we were successful, there was only one organization. What's your sense of that?
So, Councilwoman, you know me, and I'm going to be very frank. Part of the census is very hard to get people who want to contract with Philadelphia to do this work. We've heard everything from Philadelphia is very litigious. We have a very robust advocacy community. Folks will say, why do I have to deal with all of that when I can go and get kids from Bucks County, Delaware County, or someplace else for the same pay and not take that same risk, right, in terms of defending lawsuits and all the other stuff that goes on. And this is just my personal opinion. Some of it is also, there is a profile, if you will, or a prototype that they have done of the young people in Philadelphia, plain and simple. Some of it involves race, in my opinion, and some of it involves this profile that they have created that our kids are inherently more dangerous than others, and I submit to you that is not true. right? A kid in the delinquent system is a kid in the delinquent system, whether he's in Philadelphia or if he's in some other county. But those are all those stereotypes and barriers that we are trying to break down to make sure. And the other thing is we, as a department, meaning the Department of Human Services and Office of Children and Families, are particular about where our kids go. And we should be, all right? I want to make sure that they're treated correctly, as does the commissioner. We do go out. We do a lot of evaluation and a lot of monitoring, and there are some providers who know that, and that's not always as attractive to people, but we care a lot about the young people in this city, and we want to make sure that we are, making sure that they're being treated appropriately.
One last thing. I promise, last thing.
Super quick. Speak.
A mic is not working.
There you go.
Frankly, we don't want to have organizations that are A, scared that we're going to force them to treat our kids right, or B, scared of black kids, responding to these RFPs. So my last question would be, what are we doing to build the capacity of folks who are right here at home, who know our young people, who are not afraid of them, and who could grow into this work?
That's exactly what I was speaking to in terms of building your own. We certainly know of, providers, organizations that are interested in providing that quality treatment for our young people. And so we want them to put the money where their mouth is, right? And so we are willing to support them. As I indicated, we are willing to fund them and fund them adequately because we do want them to provide the necessary service for young people. And we want it preferably in Philadelphia. And so that's why we will continue to go to you and City Council, but also go to the advocate community around helping to support and helping to identify a provider.
When's the RFP going out again?
It will be out soon. As you know, I can't state when the RFP will be posted.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Council President.
No, you're welcome. And it may be good to even, I don't know if you got a working group or not, but for what I get from this as well, you have the providers and some don't have buildings. And as district council member, we deal with developers on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
That have property that could possibly be utilized as a part of a public-private partnership, something to take in consideration. So I know most of us know individuals who have land or buildings available, but also that provider in a partnership maybe better come in and kind of provide that opportunity for a safe haven for our young people. With that being said, the chair recognizes Councilman Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. And again, I just wanted to thank Vanessa Garrett Harley and Commissioner Ali for all of your work. I've had the wonderful pleasure of working with you, not just over the last term, but for very many years. And I wanted to appreciate the work that you all have been doing to work directly with me in my office, particularly on the community evening resource centers and the ability to go from 1 to 2 and 6 in less than 4 years. So I'm so appreciative of the entire team at DHS for your work with putting together the CERC centers. You all continue to provide us with additional updates around the utilization numbers, and I know Councilman Lozada asked about this, particularly with the center over in East Division, and I visited 4 out of the 6, and I still have to get to the 2 new locations. But I wanted to ask how we are tracking the way our CERCs are funded, in the budget, just so we can ensure that that's happening year over year. And then how do you measure sort of the success rate for each of the CERCs? And then how can we engage all the providers together so they can, cross-collaborate on some opportunities for the young people at each of the centers? And, they all have their different projects. Some have a camera program, some have a barbershop. They all have different things. But how do we ensure that cross-collaboration amongst the centers as well so they can take best practices from each other? And then finally, I'll talk about this more when we hear from PPD, but how are we engaging the young people who, as I say, they come to the center involuntarily?
Yeah. So thank you for those questions, and then I'll start with the latter in terms of the work. with the Philadelphia Police Department. And so, as I indicated in terms of the CERC utilization, we started in January of 2022. So this date is up until February 29th. We do provide City Council with quarterly updates, but as I indicated previously, that we had 1,720 young people who participate in activities at the various CERCs, amounting to almost 23,000 visits. And so we know that the CERCs are attractive to young people. One of the reasons why they are so attractive to young people is because the CERCs have the ability to engage them, but also ask them what do they want to see at the center. So that's why you see the differences in programming is because they get the feedback directly from the young people. And so when you see a CERC, you see a CERC in South Philly, it will definitely be different from the CERC in Northwest because of the needs of the young people. The other thing we do for the cross collaboration is my team actually meet with all of the CERCs so that they can share some of their successes and also share some of their challenges, because certainly they want to continue to consistently service young people, because there are ebbs and flows, if you will, in terms of the winter months versus the spring and the summer time. And so we continue to do that. In terms of the police department, to go back to that question, we have been in communication consistently with the police department about bringing young people to the CERCs when they are unable to take the young people home. And so we have had a conversation with the current commissioner. We will continue those conversations. We will make sure that he has new leadership in some of the police districts, that the CERCs reach out to the police, because what we find is the young people who are brought for curfew violations, the highest number of young people is from the Northwest section, but they have a great partnership with the police. And so the police are familiar with their program. As you know, they do the cooking with the cops. They do the haircuts. A police officer come and do haircuts with the young people. And so the CERCs that have the closest relationship and the strongest relationship with the police is the ones that the police are bringing the young people in.
Right. Now, I heard the bell, and I'll honor the clock and submit the balance of my questions. But I just wanted to say thank you again for all of your hard work. I mean, to stand up 6 locations in less than a 2-year period, I could not believe it.
You pressed us.
Right. And I thank you.
You pressed us now.
I'm giving you kudos.
But we recognize the need, and we appreciate it. We recognize the need.
Right. I appreciate it so much, because, I mean, to do that is just unheard of. And really, it was in response to the cops who said, you can't expect us to pick up a kid in South Philly and take them all the way up to the Northeast. And so we really wanted to make that accommodation. So thank you very, very much. I will submit my questions for the free library, but I want to give a shout out to Kelly Richards and his team. They have been stellar and superb in their work, and a special shout out to the LEAP program and the TLAs in particular, hiring our teens and our young people to work at the library, particularly in the summer months. So thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Councilmember Cindy Bass. Oh, okay, excuse me, didn't see. The chair recognizes Councilman Kendra Brooks.
All righty, so these questions are for Parks and Rec, this group set. So summer's coming up, and we know that our youth need activities, and one of those is public pools, which I'm a strong advocate for. So of the 60 pools that were open last summer, how many were open for the entirety summer? And how many pools does the city own, and why are only 60 set to be open at some point in time this summer? And of those pools, how many of them are accessible? And is that in every district? I know that's a loaded question, and it's a repeat. And I know you have only been here, you're new to these questions, but if you could help, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Councilmember Kendra Brooks. Susan Slauson. So all 60 of our pools will be open this summer. The 60 pools that are open are Parks and Recs pools. The pools that are not open are under some type of construction, either with rebuild or a maintenance challenge. Okay. So there are 5 of our pools are actually pools that we use for training. I actually have that information written down, but I know it, so.
Okay.
And so are you concerned about the pools that are closed?
Yeah, you just said 5 of them are closed for some level of maintenance. I was just wondering why they weren't rebuilt.
some of them are rebuild, some of them are maintenance.
And then the other, are there wheelchair accessible lifts at a pool in every district? I asked this a few years ago, and I know some were broke or they needed to be repaired. Where, are we closer to having a wheelchair accessible pool in every councilmanic district?
I'm going to let someone else answer that because I don't know. I do know that for years we have been working on trying to ensure that each one of our pools, not just one in each council district, but each one of our pools were to be handicap accessible. So,
And I'm asking because I know it has been a struggle in the past, and then with the closing of carousel houses was something that was said was going to happen long-term. And before you got here, I just wondered what's the status of us having accessible pools in every councilmanic district, at least if every pool not being accessible.
yeah, I'm not going to, I'm going to let someone answer that. Bill? Bill's here. Okay. Oh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bill Salvatore, Deputy Commissioner of Programming at Parks and Rec. Thank you for the question. So we have 36 accessible pools right now. Of those 36 that we can get wheelchairs up to, 14 have pool lifts. We're working with our Director of Inclusion, Gwen Valade, every year to identify funding to add pool lifts to the other pools.
So within those 14, is there one in every council district?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, thank you so much. For
I'm sorry. I'm just told behind me we do have one in each council district.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
Wait, just for clarification, you said there is one in every council?
One in every
district?
council district, yes.
And is that a capital investment requirement?
No, it is not.
Okay, just wanted to see how do we ramp up making sure there are more pools accessible? So that wouldn't come out of capital budget?
It would not.
Okay, all right, just wanted to know that for the record.
I have more, can I finish
Member
out these
Brooks,
questions?
go ahead.
Okay, so, I am, thank you so much for sharing the information about the utilization of outdoor pools, but I'm very interested in indoor pools as well. Because I know with the indoor pools that's where you can do your lifeguard training during the winter. And every year, my council colleagues and I hear about the shortage of lifeguards. And we realize that you can't train up lifeguards in like a small period of time before the pool's open. So we need to make sure we have access to more indoor pools. So I was wondering what type of lifeguard pipeline programs are in place to ensure that we are recruiting and training lifeguards from our neighborhoods and schools to ensure that we have proper staffing. And another part is that, because in my community, there are 2 indoor pools. One is Marcus Foster and one is Pickett, and they both have potential to be used during winter months for youth recreation and training. And I was wondering, how is Parks and Recs working with the School District of Philadelphia to open these pools, and what does that relationship look like between the district and Parks and Rec?
So we currently have one indoor pool that we're using with the school district. That's up at Lincoln. We also have partnerships with Friends Central, St. Joe's Prep, and some local YMCAs to do lifeguard training. We started as early as January this year with lifeguard training. And as far as recruitment goes, we've been to a number of recruitment events, both locally at community centers, rec centers, as well as hosted district-wide recruitment events, where we actually invite previous lifeguards or previous seasonal employees to invite a friend to get a job this summer. And then also we go to recruitment events at schools and colleges, universities as well. As far as your question around your local indoor pools, both Marcus Foster and Pickett are offline from the school district. I think they need some capital investment, but that's more of a school district question than it would be for us.
Well, we have done the tour of Marcus Foster and Pickett with the School District of Philadelphia, and part of the conversation is that they're in conversation with Parks and Rec. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the status of the conversation in order for us to begin moving forward on that process.
So I can look into and set up a meeting with the facilities, with the School District of Philadelphia, and see where we are, and see if there's some type of a partnership. If it's a funding issue, if it's a staffing issue, I can follow up and get you that information.
Okay.
And Councilwoman, I just wanted to add one thing, going back to one of the questions that you asked was, how do you establish that lifeguard pipeline? And part of the ways that you establish that is the free swim lessons that we're trying to give across the board I'm sure you notice as well as I do, swimming wasn't necessarily taught in all of our communities growing up. And so when we are hunting for lifeguards, we often have a difficult time getting lifeguards, particularly out of the vulnerable communities that we serve or the communities of color. And so part of that offering those swim lessons is to build that up differently, to start much earlier, teaching young people how to swim and all of that. And then in the future, it will be less difficult because we have some kids that would like to do it, but they don't have the fundamental swimming basics that they need to be taught.
And that's kind of why I was kind of asking about these central pools. I know that I live in North Philadelphia. There isn't access to an indoor pool that's free and open to everyone. I think the Kroc Center has a pool, but that's a paid program. And Lincoln University is very far. And at one time, Pickett had a huge swim program for the community. And the pool is no longer available. And we have to keep in mind that Rhodes had an amazing swim team that produced Olympians that are no longer open or we have access to. And we need to create, in order to create that pipeline, we need to give children the ability to swim year-round. And they can't do so if the closest pool for them to use is in Northeast Philadelphia. So that's why this push is so big to me. As a person that was not allowed to swim, so I cannot swim, but I know the importance of pools, and I think it's something that we should expose all young people to, because it's a life-changing experience.
Absolutely, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So we'll explore with the school district what the situation is with both Pickett and Marcus Foster.
Thank you so much.
The chair recognizes Councilmember Rue Landau.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to follow up with some DHS questions, because they're timing us. I'm going to start talking quickly. Kathy Gilmore Richards, Council Member Gilmore Richardson just talked about the LEAP, the Free Library LEAP program. I just want to, this is a quick question. The rest are going to be focused on something else. But I noticed that that it was cut $330,000 in, I believe, the DHS budget, but I didn't see that funding in the Free Libraries budget.
That's correct. Nadine Parisi, Chief Financial Officer. Thank you for that question, Council Member. That's correct. Actually, it was just shifted in the budget. So with the new Career Connected Learning budget, we had done some reallocation, and that money is still going towards the LEAP program. It's just not as a direct line item there. It's a direct line item within the larger budget of Jeff's.
The larger budget of Jeff's. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, youth aging out of foster care. I want to follow up on all of this. I am very concerned about the youth aging out of foster care who are, or out of the DHS system in general, who have complex needs. And I wanted to know more about what supports do they receive for housing, medical care, employment searches, advanced education before they are released. We'd want it to be graduated, but they don't, they're released. And then what are we doing for housing other than relying on the adult shelter service that we have in Philadelphia? I'll start there, thanks.
Okay, so thanks for that question in terms of young people aging out. So first of all, let me state that young people, once they turn 18 years of age, they can actually remain in the DHS system until the age of 21. It is certainly a choice of them, and the only criteria they need to have is if it's a service need. By the way, the fact that you need child welfare placement, that constitutes a service need, or they could be in school or employment. And so we prefer for young people to remain in care with the Department of Human Services up until the age of 21, because we want to help them transition to adulthood. Young people with complex behavioral health and medical needs, that is a given that they remain into our system until the age of 21. If they have complex behavioral health needs and they need adult services, we work alongside of the Department of Behavioral Health in order to identify the appropriate placement for them. So it could be like a community living arrangement, for example, and so the young people can also receive those particular services in the adult system. If a young person, for example, a young person may make a decision that at the age of 18 or 19, they don't want to remain in the child welfare system. We know that some young people don't, just like they want to leave home at the magical age of 18. A young person can exit the DHS system at any time between the age of 18 and 20, but they can come back. And so that's why we want all young people to know about, and certainly counsel the hub, which is the Achieving Independence Center, because all of the services for young people starting at age 12 is right there at the Achieving Independence Center that helps them move to self-sufficiency. So you're talking about education, so helping them complete their financial aid applications. Also have employment opportunities, so Career Connected Learning will be is attached to the Achieving Independence Center. If they need any type of therapeutic services, again, can get it at AIC as well. And so that is a hub for young people so that they can avail themselves to services.
How many young people are enrolled at the Achieving Independence Center?
Hundreds. So at any given time, usually around 500 young people are enrolled in the AIC. In terms of housing, and so we do have some housing services through the Department of Human Services, not nearly enough when you think about the housing needs of young people in particular. And so certainly we work with the Office of Homeless Services because we have family unification vouchers. We actually have 75 slots. We have fostering youth to independent vouchers, which is another 125 slots. Shelter Plus Care, which is also 100 slots. We have quads. We work with PHA, which is 12 slots available. We have Northern, which is a young adult program. We have 8 slots there. We also have Valley Youth House, which is 41 slots, and then Congresso, which is 25 slots. In addition, what I testified earlier in terms of the $2 million investment for young people who age out of the foster care system.
You said council allocated that money last year. Is this ongoing, the $2 million, or is that one time last year?
Yes,
That's good
it
to
is.
hear. Last question. I know he's going to yank me soon. There was an ordinance passed by City Council in 2022 about having young people, helping them to get on Social Security benefits and also to create accounts for them so that they can save their money when they get out. Can you tell me about that, the status of that?
Sure.
Thanks.
So currently, we are mandated by the state to collect RSDI, so it's retirement, survivors, and disability benefits for youth that are in our care. And the requirement is for us to put that towards the cost of care for those youth. So first we ensure that the cost of care is higher than what we're collecting, and then we put that towards the cost of care. The majority of our funding for the department comes from the state, and this is a state mandate, so we're required to do that. So what we've been trying to do on the side is figure out how we can best satisfy that requirement, as well as continue to do what's best for youth, right? So to try and conserve benefits. As we've been in part of this planning process, and we've been working closely with advocates as well as the law department, we found that we see possible roadblocks, so we're not sure of how we would conserve the benefits. If there are implications, we don't want to cause any future problems for youth as far as them applying for any sort of welfare benefits or whatever they may need once they exit care. So we actually just released an RFI. We're very excited about that. It's the first step in the process to make sure we do this the right way. And that'll help us figure out who, like an outside consulting firm, can help us do this the right way and conserve benefits on an annual basis for youth so that they have funds when they exit care.
Thank you. To be really clear, you're saying if they receive benefits, Social Security benefits, the state says that you must pay yourselves for the cost of housing or their services from that amount, right?
That's correct. Okay. Because it affects the share the state has to pay. That's why.
Okay. Thank you very much.
They have, I just want to add that the state has said, though, that you are able to use your money, so all city funds, and not the state funds, in order to conserve benefits. This is why we released the request for information, so that we are able to identify a consultant or provider to help us so that we can build an RFP.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Nina Ahmad.
Thank you, Council President.
I'm not going to ask anything of Parks and Recs, but I wanted to just do a shout out for our commissioner here. I had a constituent request and her office, and she herself was very speedy, and the constituent is very happy. So I thank you so much for that. My questions are for Commissioner Ali and DHS, and the question is about just understanding your budget. There was a large increase in special grants funding between FY23 and 24. Are you it went from 17.7 to 73 million, if I'm reading this correctly, and are you going to be staying at that level? Is this a sustainable grant that comes year after year? And also, does this get divvied out to other service providers? And is this for program specific or a general operating support?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So the variance within the budget under the special grants is actually additional appropriations. We have fluctuations in the bracket above that, which is just the grants revenue, and that's our state funding. And so as we have fluctuations in that funding throughout the year, we're able to take just appropriation power to shift it into that grants fund. So it's just as we have increase in the cost of care, then that's what that's there for. It's a reserve, but it's actually not additional. It's not additional funding.
It's just moving it around.
And that's why in the actual obligation year, you'll always see it decrease dramatically because we're not utilizing it for the most part.
Understood. Okay. Then the next question is about the CUA Class 200 CUA budget, which looks to be, let me just see, like 115 million. And so this is the Class 200 of your general fund sector. And I was just wondering what the remaining 66 million outside of the COA is being used from that part of the budget.
So the allocation in FY24 as well as FY25 is a little larger than it usually is, and that's to accommodate for the transitions that we're going through within the CUA system. So as the commissioner had stated earlier, we do have a little bit of additional startup costs with new providers. It's one time. So it was one time in 24, it'll be one time in 25 as we continue to transition, and it's really just to support the success of the new provider coming in. So there will be additional IT costs as they come into a transition, if there's any additional outfitting, if they select a new space. So that's what some of the earmarking is there.
And quickly, last question, I heard the bell. What is the department's strategy to achieve permanency, including reunification for children? It seems like it's taking longer, from 33.9% in 2018. The overall lengths of stay have increased from 16.6 months to 23 months in 2018 to 2022. So I'm just wondering, what is the overall strategy to hopefully reduce and reunite?
Yes, so thank you for that question. So as we became a system that only have young people that are in care with us, that have complex needs, either the young person or their family, what we have found is that it takes longer to reunify. We want to make sure that we work alongside the family so that they can reunify with their young person. So that may mean behavioral health treatment, that may mean substance abuse treatment, and so that's what you see the time frame being elongated. We also certainly also experience the impact of COVID, and so when I talk and have meetings with our DBH colleagues and our CBH colleagues around the availability of treatment and behavioral health treatment in terms of getting, a consistent therapist, we've seen some issues around there. But the bottom line is continue to engage families, get them connected to the services that they deserve, and then also making sure that there is meaningful reunification and meaningful visitation. And so we also just released an RFP for visitation houses because parents told us it's not natural, if you will, to visit with their young person in an office. It's not natural. And so we did issue an RFP to identify a visitation house so that parents can come, they can cook dinner, they can bond with their children, do the natural things that they would do upon reunification. And so we also believe that that will support reunification as well.
Wonderful. I look forward to the COA metrics that you're going to be publishing soon. And also the balance of my questions I'll put into writing for you. Thank you so much. Thank you, President.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Nicholas O'Rourke.
Thank you, Council President. And I am not sure if Ash Richards made it down.
She did not make it down, Councilman, and
That's okay.
I profusely apologize. We will contact your office. They'll set up a meeting where we can actually bring Ash and go over all of your questions. Anything you need submitted, we can do that as well.
It may still be possible, though. Just to quickly follow up on the question about the urban agriculture plan, and thanks again for the tree plan report. That was incredible, by the way.
So, Councilman, the commissioner is also telling me that we're going to bring up the Deputy Commissioner, Sue Buck, who may be able to answer some of your questions just for today. There may be more cursory questions.
Thank you very much. Yes, it was just this one question around the urban agriculture plan and the lack of land security for urban farms and community gardens. Just want to better understand what Parks and Recreation would need to help provide permanent land security for the gardens and farms in Philadelphia.
Good afternoon, Sue Buck, Deputy Commissioner of Operations.
Good afternoon.
As was stated earlier, the Urban Ag Director couldn't be here today. I will try my best to answer your questions. There is the Neighborhood Garden Trust. It's a sister organization to PHS, and they have the ability to access land and acquire land and provide it for gardening groups. But if the question is how would the city acquire land rather than going to the land bank?
What do you need so that way you can hold on to it? That's been some of the complaints, is that, you know, one
Yeah,
of the
I would
biggest-
say
Yeah.
for the city to acquire the land would be one question. I don't think that Parks and Recreation has the ability to acquire the land and maintain it.
Okay. We'll submit kind of more clarifying questions to the piece, and thank you so much for that.
Yes, I apologize, Ash couldn't be
No
here.
worries at all, no worries at all. Turning now to DHS. Thank you for being here to discuss the important work of supporting children and youth in the city, and good to see you again, Commissioner Ali. I want to ask about child separations. We know that nationally poor black children are twice as likely to be removed from their homes than white kids are. And once you have first contact with DHS, or if you have an open case against you, you're more likely to have your children taken away. How does DHS in the FY25 budget increase prevention services, resources for poor parents and caregivers, and family reunification, as opposed to using more punitive practices per se, like family separation?
So thank you for that question. DHS has been on a journey around looking at the disproportionate number of black children in particular who have been separated from their families. And we have been on that journey for the past 3 years. So we've been doing a lot of work in that space. But one of the major things that we did is we had to do our work differently. And so I had to put investments on the front end to prevent a removal. The first thing I needed to do was look at the infrastructure on my hotline so that I am able to respond differently to calls coming into the DHS hotline. What we know is that about 80% of the calls that come into the DHS hotline is because it is a service need or a support need for families, and not because of physical or sexual abuse. So as a result of that, what we began to do was not transfer those reports to investigations. A hotline staff will go out to the family, make an assessment, and then we would divert from the DHS hotline. And so for the past 4 years, we have been diverting over 50% of the calls that come into the DHS hotline. That is, we get 34,000 calls, and so we needed to control the front door first. The second thing is that I had to build up our prevention continuum so that we could refer families appropriately. And so we have a number of providers that provide case management services to families as a supportive service. The goal is during the course of being diverted from the hotline or during the course of investigation, let's work with the family so that they are not accepted for service. And so we have been extremely successful with those programs. To give you a sense of the outcomes, the families who avail themselves to our diversionary services, we look to see if we get a subsequent call. We do not. 94% of those families do not get a subsequent call to the DHS hotline. So again, controlling the front door, building the prevention continuum. I'm also proud to state that in 2017, and Vanessa testified to this, in 2017, we saw one of our highest numbers of young people who were in placement. We were at 6,200 young people who were in placement, child welfare placement in the city of Philadelphia. Today we have 3,025, so we reduced that by 50%, again, because of the work that we are doing on the front end in order to ensure that young people are not unnecessarily removed from their homes.
Thank you for that. I did hear the buzzer go off already. One more question? Okay, yeah. I wanted to shift to talk about our caregiving workforce for Office and Children and Family. I want to talk about caregiving workforce like our early childhood educators. It's concerning to our office that in Pennsylvania, early childhood educators make less than $13 an hour on average. Comes at a time when many of our early child care centers have massive wait lists and child care is expensive for most families. As the PHL Pre-K administrator, what is OCF doing to support the early childhood workforce? What are we doing to raise wages and working conditions for this sector?
Good afternoon. Sean Perkins, Chief of Early Childhood Education. This council has a living wage requirement that we require all of our contracted early childhood centers to uphold. We start there, and I want to add a little bit more to what Vanessa was mentioning earlier about it's a bit of a complicated system where centers receive funding from Head Start, federal grants, they receive it from the state, PA Pre-K counts, they receive some funding from us, from the city, in order to provide that high quality early childhood education experience that they need. I'm not going to sit here and say that they get paid what they deserve more. We are working more and faster and further and deeper. We reallocate the funds that we don't end up using, because we do still have some seats that are vacant. If they don't get used, we repurpose those to give them back to the centers to make sure that they go into the salaries. But we know that the expenses that the centers are incurring aren't just the salaries, that they also have lease and rent requirements as well as the materials and supplies. So we don't fund the teachers. We don't hire or fire the teachers. We actually fund the center, and we allow them that flexibility. Again, not going to sit here and say that they are paid what they actually probably deserve. They deserve far more, way far more. The number you gave, the statistic there about Pennsylvania's rate, does not reflect what I believe Philadelphia's rate is. We have seen the number be higher, but not high enough.
The kind of the crux of that, and I'll wrap up with this, the crux of that was really to get at the actual workforce development on this piece. Is there any work being done to develop caregiving work pipelines and low-cost certifications? How can we incentivize young people to work in early childhood education to make that more robust?
Yeah, Councilmember, you're right on there. Yeah, incentives are the key proponent here. So we work very closely with our partners at the school district, and the state designates a professional development organization for each region. Philadelphia is its own region. So we actually contract with the professional development organization to make sure that we're building that pipeline. Again, it's a body of work that we're trying to work on closer with our institutes of higher education, Drexel, Temple, Penn. Not to mention a lot of our community-based organizations provide CDAs. Parkway West is one of our high schools here in the city that is working on doing that, and we're looking to build that out even more. There's a grant proposal that the U.S. Department of Labor just put out that we are building towards with 1199C as well, to try and work on adding those incentives to build that pipeline as well.
Thank you. My time is taxed. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Cindy Bass. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Is it on? There it is. So just a couple of questions just from following up from the first round.
And I wanted to know, and I know the question was just asked about removing children from homes, but before we parted, I did ask for the numbers. So do we have those?
Yes, and so you actually indicated that the city of Philadelphia had the highest number of removals from their homes. And so
And that's as of?
that was in 27, so in 2017, we were actually placing, for every 1,000 children, we were placing 8 young people, removing them from their home. And so now, as of today, that number is 3 young people for every 1,000. It has a lot to do with what I just indicated in terms of our investments in prevention, us wanting to support families as opposed to removing young people from their homes. It is still slightly above the national average, which is like 2.9 or something like that, but we are certainly headed in the right direction.
Where do we place? Are we still number 1 in terms of removing children from their homes?
So I can't answer that question because that data wasn't published again. I've asked for the data from a number of individuals, but it's not published. And the data that you're referring to, yes, it compared this to New York, I think LA, Baltimore, no one has recreated. So the latest chart that I had was from 2017. And that was the 8 for every 1,000, and now we are at 3 per every 1,000.
You know, I would urge that I think it's worth for DHS to produce it themselves. I don't know who produced the first report, but it might not be a bad idea to just see where we stand so that, and particularly among comparable cities, because, you know, the population between like a New York and a Philadelphia is not, it's not comparable.
Right.
But still, we outpace them in terms of child separation. So, but having the data to be able to make informed decisions and really just know where we stand. Like, are we doing a good job with the system that we have in place? Are we doing not such a good job? Because we could all use, you know, some constructive criticism or some suggestions in terms of how we could do things a little bit differently or better. So it might behoove us to do our own report as a suggestion.
Yes, and in order to do that, I would have to get the data from the, you know, the other jurisdictions. So we've tried, but we will certainly, you know, try again. So my performance management technology team will reach out.
The other question I had before we broke was the amount that we spend on the CUAs versus how much we're spending. You know, originally it was just a social worker system without CUAs, and we were spending X amount, and then we were spending, you know, having a traditional social work system, and then we paired it with the CUAs, which, you know, and I know your explanation from earlier, but that wasn't the original explanation that we were given. The original explanation, if we go back and look at Anne-Marie Ambrose and her testimony, it'll say that those numbers were supposed to, you know, like it was supposed to be a cost-saving measure. But can you give us an idea of where we are now versus where we were then?
Sure. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, that's correct. It's not a cost savings overall for the budget, and I'm sorry that you were told otherwise.
Yeah, but you know, it never should have been. It never should have been a cost. Because when you're dealing with a vulnerable population, you know, you've got to spend as much as you've got to spend to make sure that they're taken care of. So
agreed. And that's one of the things that that Commissioner Ali touched on prior, you know, in the other round, is that we've continued to make to streamline the work that the social workers in-house are doing, as well as the work of the CUA, so that they work together, but not separately, right? And so what you would see in the budget over the past, I would say, 5 fiscal years is that we have incrementally increased our funding to the CUAs. We're at about $110 million right now for
is what we spend on the CUA system, $110 million?
Yes. And that's not including the transition dollars that were noted as a placeholder earlier. But that's the actual investment right now in our contracts. And so that has grown. I would say in the past 5 years, we're probably closer to 90 million. And those additional investments account for increases around retention support, right? So the same issues that the departments within the city are going through, the CUAs are experiencing as well. So we try to level set some of the frontline salaries, as well as additional additional support for insurance. Insurance costs are just through the roof. And the administration and the state have been incredibly supportive of continuing to fund that increased cost.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
Your face was off. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, so, let me see. Some of my other questions I will put into writing, but I did have just a couple of other different questions for Parks and Recreation and libraries. Can we do libraries real quick first? Because it's just one quick question. You're welcome. And so my question for our library director, and I think it was 2017 in the budget hearings, I had asked the department, of course you weren't here, but I was asking, and I think we passed a resolution in this body that I authored, asking for the city of Philadelphia to offer what some surrounding counties were doing in terms of library services that will bring us into, like the new age. And things like being able to take out like a library hotspot, a Wi-Fi hotspot, tablets, that kind of technology, which is the new way to read, if you will. And we were told that, the city didn't have the budget to be able to do that. And then maybe a year or two later, miraculously, we did have the budget, but it was kind of like a secret, like no one was told that we were doing that. So I don't know, I guess I'm asking that to find out, are we doing those kinds of services? We were for a while, we started out saying we can't afford it. Then we were doing it, but it was a secret. So are we doing it? Aren't we? Are we not? Like, what's going on with that? Is it on the horizon?
Kelly Richards, President and Director of Free Library, Philadelphia. I can't go back to 2017, and
Right.
thank you
Yes.
For recognizing that. But as we build our technology in the library, first we're trying to get the computers to actually be updated. They're about 15 years old. And so we're working on that project right now. And I'll get back to you, but I think we got a grant or something that we're working on.
Yes.
For that.
Yes.
But I'm not sure. But let me
No,
get
it
back.
was. There was a grant that was provided from, I don't know who, from a foundation or whatever.
I believe what you're talking about was a federal grant during COVID where we were giving dollars to provide computers to the public. But I'll verify that. But that also started, I believe it was more than 2 years ago. It's probably 3 years ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if we're really trying to bring folks forward, listen, I like a book. I like to sit down with like a real book in my hands. But I know that for a lot of people, they want a tablet.
Right.
And even beyond that, there's a lot of folks who don't have access to Wi-Fi at home. And so having those kinds of tools available only makes sense.
Right.
If we're really trying to do something to address literacy and to address the digital divide, these are the kind of tools that I think our library needs to be offering these days.
We offer ebooks, we offer electronic resources and services, but the equipment is what
Right.
you're talking about,
Yes.
taking home. And the federal government, they did offer that, and the library received it, but it ended in December. But there is some talk at the federal level to provide something again. But going forward, library, we're always looking for grant opportunities, and some of those things are out there and available. But that's to come.
Okay.
And it's something, the library, me and my team, we're always looking for those opportunities for citizens here in Philadelphia.
Okay, thank you.
Because good question, and we're always looking for those things.
Well, listen, I just want to, like I said, I know you weren't here, but just making sure it's on your radar,
Yes.
so that if there is an opportunity to do that, if, if grants become available in the future, or if we even put in an allocation, maybe in next year's budget, if it's, it's too late this year, but maybe in next year's budget, that might be something worth considering as really providing our citizens with the latest in tools and technology.
I support that.
Excellent, thank you.
And member, if you shall want to see it in this budget, we can talk offline because we're still negotiating. So
All right now.
just want to let you know.
How much we need for that?
So
Throw me a number, Kelly, throw me a number.
before we go into our next session, a lightning question and a lightning response from Councilman Jamie Gaudier.
Lightning. I wanted to ask about data. This is for DHS. Sorry for the musical chairs. So in order to make sure that we're improving the lives of young people, we need good data, right? We need to know what charges are bringing young people to PJJSC for the first, second, or third, or fourth time. We need to be able to trace a young person's journey through the juvenile justice system, understand what services they receive and what outcomes are tied to those services. If we have that information, we can know what works and what doesn't, so that we can invest our dollars accordingly. So I wanted to ask about, how we're currently tracking outcomes. How are we currently measuring the effectiveness of specific interventions like the services offered at PJJSC or in-home detention programs or IPS? How are we currently doing that, and what kind of investment do we need to provide publicly available data about juvenile justice that tracks young people through our system from beginning to end, and is that in this current budget? Is that lightning enough? Cool. Okay.
So I'll actually ask Deputy Commissioner Williams to start with that question.
Yes, good afternoon, Council. My name is Gary Williams, the Deputy Commissioner for Juvenile Justice Services. And so just to level set, when we consider recidivism, Councilwoman Gaudier, we just did a major study on recidivism, and we looked at 3,000 plus young people who went through our juvenile justice system. And how we define recidivism is basically when a young person goes through the juvenile justice system and completely discharges from court, we look at a 2-year period after that discharge. And so of the 3,000 plus young people who went through the system, there were 85% of young people who remained recidivism free. It's pretty good. Yeah. And so now we're at the point of looking at each program because we want to know which programs are making a difference. And the way that we do that is what we call impact assessments. Okay. So all of the delinquent programs that we have are undergoing what we call impact assessments. And so with that assessment, we'll identify those particular outcomes that are unique to those programs. The second phase of that is actually to do a deep dive review of scope of work and contracts. So we align the desirable outcomes to for those particular programs and make sure that they're in the scope of work and contract. And the next phase is really to develop a comprehensive tool to measure those desired outcomes. And we're projecting in fiscal year 26 to be able to regularly publish those qualitative outcome reports that we all need.
When are those reports that you mentioned, when will they be available and will they be publicly available?
Yeah, all the quality evaluations that we do even now are made public, Okay. And so they will certainly be made public. I would be remiss also if I did not mention the deep dive evaluation process that actually, with the help of Drexel University and their Juvenile Justice Research Lab, they did a major study on what we have as IPS, Intensive Prevention Services, which is a diversionary program that is also used for our school-based diversionary work. And they did they looked at a 5-year period. And with that, they were able to basically conclude, as a result of actually receiving this particular intervention, there was an 84% reduction in arrest rate across schools. Alongside of that, there's also been it also was discovered that there was a 34% reduction in what we call serious behavior incidents. So what that means is, as the arrest rates decline, there was no compromising of school safety. And so with that information, we also open that particular intervention up to the general public, and that's actually on the continuum as a diversionary primary prevention program. So those are the types of studies that we're looking to move towards.
Timelines?
For that, again, the qualitative reports that we're looking to do we're projecting that to be in the fiscal year 26.
Okay, so nothing this year.
Well, we have the impact. We have the impact assessments that could be made available to you as we complete those. That gives you a really good indication of what's working in terms of the interventions that we have.
Yeah, the reason why Deputy Commissioner said for FY26 is because, as you know, the data that's available for Philadelphia DHS or Juvenile Justice Services is the data of young people who avail themselves to our services. And so we know that we need to look at the MOU that we have existing with the police and probably have to do a revision around that, the MOU that we have standing with the courts, so family court as well, and then we need to enter into some discussions with the district attorney's office, because when you talk about the charging of young people, all of that is done by a separate entity. So in order to do a comprehensive look at the young person, as you indicated, from the time that they are arrested until the time they receive services through the department, we would need the support of other departments to do that. We have started that conversation already with the police department and certainly with our court system.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. And I would think that, are you working in partnership with Adam Gear, the new public safety director, as relates to this comprehensive approach of having the district attorney's office, first judicial district, as well as the Philadelphia Police Department as a part of this conversation?
We have not yet. Adam Gear is actually scheduled to come to the PJJSC, and so we will be providing him with an update on all of the service that we have, but also the needs that we have as well. So we will certainly have that, raise that question with him.
And just also, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just wanted to add, Councilman, I have had conversations with Adam Gear about our collaboration together, and so very confident that we will be working together. And his deputy commissioner that he brought in is Evangela Manos, who's coming from working and reporting directly to me on our juvenile justice strategic stuff. So she's very aware of the need for this. So I have had some of those preliminary conversations.
Good. And just give me a brief overview about our evening reporting centers. What did they compose of? What's the criteria for individual to go to an evening reporting center?
Thank you for the question, Mr. President. The evening reporting centers basically, they're offered to our young people based on the court posture of the young person. So we have a pre-adjudicated evening reporting center. That is the young person who hasn't been adjudicated as of yet. We also have a post-adjudicated evening reporting center. The services are similar, but based on where that young person is within the juvenile court system, it may look a little different. We also have what we call the Community Intervention Center, which is for those young people who are on a deferred adjudication. And then we have the post-placement ERC. Those are that particular intervention is for young people who actually are returning to the community. So again, it's a pretty robust continuum of interventions geared towards those young people who are in the system. And then alongside of that, we do have reintegration services. So the provider who provides that particular intervention can work with a young person 6 months post to their discharge from placement.
And where are they located at the evening reporting centers?
I can actually give you those addresses, Mr. President, but it's four that cover the span of the city.
Sure. And are we, I guess this would be for you, Vanessa, are we moving forward with the day reporting centers? I know there was an RFP that was put out over the last 2 years for day reporting centers, and I haven't seen them come to fruition. One of them was at Southwest. CDC was one of the actual places they were going to actually house a day reporting center, and I haven't seen anything move forward since then. I don't know if that was under your purview at that time, but
Yeah, I'm not sure I know what you're referring to in terms of the day reporting center.
Okay.
Certainly it's not under DHS at this time.
okay, yeah, that's
But
cool.
we can talk about it.
It was an alternative for individuals being placed in placement, but this was moved beyond juveniles. It was also adults as well, but maybe that's another conversation for another panel. But
Yeah.
I'm matching up the eating reporting centers
I
with
got you. I think it
day
comes under
reporting
Adam Gear, under the Public Safety Director, if it's what I'm thinking. You may be
Okay.
referring to the neighborhood resource centers that we have been working on years ago that folks could have went to if they were reintegrating from the adult system.
I think that may be what it is.
I think that's what you're talking about.
Yep,
Yes.
that was under Erica Atwood at the time. the
Yes,
proposal.
and that's now
So-
under Public Safety Director
Okay,
Gear.
we'll save that question for him just to get the status of it. I want to defer back to Councilman Cindy Bass because she was in the middle of her line of questioning before I went to Councilman Jamie Cartier. But at least the inquiry, I know we don't have no problem working and asking questions, and so report that.
It's okay. It was a lightning round, right? So, a couple other questions. Parks and Recreation. Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon, Susan Slauson.
Good afternoon. So, a couple questions. So, in 2013, we initiated a camera program for all parks and recreation centers, or for all recreation centers and playgrounds in the city of Philadelphia. And, and it was scheduled to take, I think, like 3 years or something like that. It was, somewhat delayed, and by the time, I think most of them got done. It was supposed to be done, I think, in 2017 or so. And then, in 2017, it wasn't complete, and then I think closer to 2019, and then we hit the pandemic. Can you give me an idea, is everything done now? Do all of our centers, are they equipped with the camera equipment that was supposed to be provided?
We have 1,972 cameras that we have in place currently. There are 12 facilities that are in design. We have about 36 that still need to have cameras placed. So we've done an amazing job. I want to say it was about 300 less a year ago. So within
Okay.
a year, we've done,
So we're almost there.
we're almost there.
Okay. And I remember when we started, I think we had something like 50 cameras throughout the entire Parks and Recreation system. So kudos to you all. You did a great job in making this happen. And I know we did our first camera announcement when we alerted the public over at Marion Anderson in the
right.
2nd Council District
That's
with the council president. So that was, when we first kicked it off there, and since then, you all have just been going nonstop.
It's times like this, Councilmember Bass, that your push makes a difference. And so now here we are, these many years later, our system is almost completely outfitted with the cameras.
So we've got, how many left to go, you said?
Well, 36 left. Well, the
36
other one-
centers.
So now 12 are in
Oh,
design,
no, 36 cameras,
36 centers.
36 centers.
Oh, right now, 1,972
Cameras are in place.
cameras are in place.
Okay. Okay, very good. Another question, back when, under previous Commissioner DeBardinas, we asked for, actually, this body passed a bill that required annual reports of crime on Philadelphia Parks and Recreation property. And, every year I ask, like, are we getting that report anytime soon? Because as a district member, it helps us as we allocate money through ITEF dollars to try to figure out where do I need to put my ITEF dollars. Like if I know that there's a rec center that's a problem, that things are happening, that they need more attention, they need more improvements, we need to, more lights, let's flood it with lights if we are having, problems over there, more cameras. Maybe we don't have enough cameras, more security measures, things of that nature, more programming. But we don't know if we don't know what's happening and where it's happening in our districts. So I'm pretty sure you probably don't have that report, but I'm going to ask if you could produce it, sometime in the near future and get it to council maybe by the end of this budget cycle.
That's a great question, and we I've met with Adam Gear, and so we are working together. And just as the coordination, I'm also just working with the police department. So I don't think that'll be a difficult ask for us to get the information to let you know what's going on in your particular districts. Parks and Recreation has a great relationship with the police,
Yes.
even prior to me and when I wasn't here. So we'll be able to get you that information.
Thank you so much. I think as a district member, it's important. Two more questions really quickly. One is around Ready to Swim, which was a program that our office authored and presented to the previous commissioner and asked, if they would fund it. Ready to Swim was a program that was pretty much guaranteed to ensure that any kid that wanted to learn how to swim would learn how to swim. And so we would provide quality instruction, training, swimwear, the whole nine. And so the give back on that was that we were hopeful that some of those young people would be able, like the older ones, would be able to be lifeguards in the summer because as you know, we end up closing our swimming pools in August. And it's still very, very hot in August, but we close them because the young people who are the lifeguards have to go back to college. And so that has been our talent pool for a very long time, but it really doesn't work with what the needs of the city are. So we authored this program, Ready to Swim. We were told that there wasn't any funding, and I think in the last budget cycle, the previous commissioner said, oh yeah, we did that. But they, didn't let us know. But is it still happening? It's called something different though under.
It is. I'm actually going to ask Bill to come up because we are doing something to ensure that we're trying to teach our young people how to swim. And I'm not sure if you're aware of the initiatives that started last year where we're paying an additional $1,000 to those, whether young, middle-aged, or old, if you're willing to come on and be a lifeguard. If you sign up and you complete a certain part of the process by April 15th, you get an additional $1,000. And it goes a little further. If you don't make the April 15th cutoff date, you still have May 15th, and you get an additional $500. And this is an incentive because we're trying to do everything we can to not only get the lifeguards, but to get them in a timely manner so all of our facilities can open. But Bill, if you could speak to...
Absolutely. Bill Salvatore, once again, Deputy Commissioner, Parks and Rec.
Hey, Bill.
So to respond to your question, I'm not quite sure of the program that you're speaking of, Council Member, but we did expand our Swim for Life camps this summer.
That's it, yes.
To an additional 3 sites. We did get an additional grant from the Red Cross to expand our swim lessons. We mandated swim lessons in all our summer camps. So even if you don't have a pool at your summer camp, we will bus those campers from that summer camp to the nearest pool for swim lessons. And we also added adult swim lessons outside of normal swim hours. So at select sites, adults can get swim lessons after 7 o'clock.
Okay, that sounds like the same, I just want to make sure it's still going.
Yep.
Like people are learning how to swim, and that hopefully we'll be able to expand our talent pool so that we don't have to close our pool so early. And one last thing, speaking of swimming, I do want to ask about, because I was absent for the conversation about pools in my district, particularly Marcus Foster and Pickett Pool. And I wanted to, just briefly, if you could recap the conversation, because I've been working on this for a long time, so I feel some kind of way that, I'm not in the room when we're talking about it, because we've been working and working and working to get these pools up and running and open. And we know that PPR doesn't really want them in their inventory, at least that's what we were told. So if that's not accurate, feel free to let me know. But I know right now it's school district property. At one point they were operated by, well, at least Pickett was operated by Parks and Recreation.
At one point, they both were.
At one point.
So if you can speak to that, Bill.
Yeah, so years ago when I was in the field, yes, we did use Pickett and Foster for lifeguard training. In our last conversation with the school district, and this is information that we just got today from Councilmember Kendra Brooks, that the school district is interested in talking about Foster and Pickett. We were told they were out of service. So I think we need to go back and have a conversation with the school district to find out how we can partner to perhaps get them open like we are doing at Sayre.
Well, we've been having conversations with the school district, and it hasn't been as productive as we would have hoped. We're going to continue to have conversations. I know that there are folks who feel like, oh, it should go, listen, a school district doesn't want them anymore. We want to give them the Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation doesn't have the dollars to be able to properly maintain the pools and bring the pools online. And, we're looking at every possible alternative because it matters less to me in terms of who's actually the main operator, and more important that it's a resource that's open and available to the community. So I just wanted to just go on record on that, because it's easy to, when folks start rah-rah-rahing around a particular issue, to jump in front of the parade. But you really have to be, mindful and knowledgeable, and have to have been at the table with the conversations to really know what's been happening all along. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, and if you are interested in us being a part of those conversations, I'd be willing to be a part of those conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to do this because we do have two departments who have been waiting patiently. And so these four departments can be available for callback. And I know there was another event going on that kind of prevented members to come just a little bit later, but for the sake of us continually to move this process forward, we're going to wrap up this round, but also offer the members who I do see want to have follow-up questions and so forth. Either we call you back for official part of the next part of the hearing, so they can still get their questions on the record, and then we'll go from there. And so, and then also on this particular topic as well, hopefully the key parties can kind of get all on the same page so we can figure out how we move this process forward. And I'm going to defer to Commissioner Sue Slauson, as well as yourself, Vanessa, to kind of facilitate that process. So we all be straight moving forward, though. And so with that being said, and I done said lightning round around 2-3 times, and so we are wrapping this particular session up. And with that being said, I'm going to call, first of all, thank all of you for your testimony. I want to thank Gary Williams, give him a shout out, as well as Mike Scott and his team. With that being said, we're going to ask for Mural Arts and the Commerce Department to please come on up. Thank you for saying, we'll be here forever.
And my team needs to be up here because I'm going to need them this way. Which side do you want your team on? I want my team on this side. See, we'll go this way.
Good to see you.
Oh, is it Mural Art? Do you have our president?
I do. And emails are all over.
Council President. Is it Commerce and Mural Arts or just Mural Arts? You want Commerce?
Both of you.
Okay. Where's my team? Have they abandoned me? Here they Commerce.
Who could abandon you, Albert?
Mural Arts.
You can read first and then... I'm like, no, I've gotten that request once. How you doing, love?
So we want to thank you for patiently waiting. I know some of you have been here since 10 o'clock this morning, and so we had a delayed appropriations meeting while we took care of some business, and then obviously, starting at 11 o'clock, we had 4 to 5 different departments, and so obviously that conversation is going to be very, very robust. And I do want to say it's exciting that members want to go even longer, and so that shows the dedication and commitment of individuals being laser-like focused on this budget process. And so thank you for your patience. And so up now we have Mural Arts as well as the Commerce Department. You both will give your testimonies, and then we will allow members to ask either one of you their questions simultaneously as we go through this process. And so with that being said, Ms. Jane Golden, let's state your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
Thank you very much. My name is Jane Golden, and I'm the Executive Director of Mural Arts Philadelphia. So good afternoon, President Johnson and members of City Council. I am pleased to provide testimony on Mural Arts' fiscal 2025 operating budget. We are asking for $2.68 million. I want to start out with gratitude and thank all of you for your support and the opportunity to testify. I always love this. This is such an important time in our city. We have a new mayor with an exciting agenda, a committed and passionate city council. The positive feeling that I see from people all over the city is palpable. In spite of multi-layered challenges, I am an optimist. I am inspired daily by the spirit and tenacity of citizens in our city. I feel a collective determination, and every single day, somewhere in the vast array of the work that Mural Arts does, we encounter love and faith and a tremendous hunger for beauty and for art. We at Mural Arts are excited as well. After all, it is our 40th anniversary of the Anti-Graffiti Network and the Mural Arts program. Every year, over 100 community groups, arts, nonprofits, and social service agencies partner with us on programs and projects of all sizes across Philadelphia, in every neighborhood. We work with over 250 artists annually, contributing $2.4 million directly into the creative economy. Yay, artists. Because of your support, we serve over 25,000 constituents through our many departments, including art education, the Porch Light program, which is our partnership with the Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services, restorative justice, community murals, restorations, special projects, and the Mural Arts Institute. So let's start with restorative justice. Here we work in the state prison at SCI Phoenix, and we started working at Graterford back in the day in 2002. We work with the DA's office, and we have programs like the Guild and the Rec Crew, where we create pathways for people who have been impacted by the criminal legal system so they can reintegrate back into the community and prepare for the road ahead. The recidivism rate among participants is very low. It's less than a third of the average in our city. More importantly, and what's really inspiring, we see people start to believe in themselves. Our Porch Light program uses art to help people who are struggling with mental health issues, substance use, and trauma. Porch Light takes on major projects that are really complicated, like one we're doing now about suicide awareness, but we also have permanent storefront locations in the Southeast, the Northeast, Suburban Station, and Kensington. And why do we do this? To bring vital support and resources to people where it's needed the most. We want to be on the ground. Our Color Me Back initiative is a same-day work and pay program that provides people facing housing insecurity with opportunities to earn money and access to services, and we prepare them for work. Sometimes they stay on with Mural Arts, and sometimes they go far beyond Mural Arts. Since 2019, we've worked with several thousand people. Every year, we're serving 1,000 people in the Color Me Back program. Right now, in the last few weeks, 92 new people signed up, and we have a waiting list of almost 300 people who want to get into the program in Kensington. This is a needed service, and it's incredibly inspiring. Our art education department annually serves over 2,200 young people ranging in age between 11 and 18. Every young person in Philly deserves access to art through programs after school and during the school day and during the summer. Mural Arts is able to provide safe spaces with highly trained teaching artists where students have an opportunity to learn, grow, thrive, and express themselves. We provide young people a choice and a voice and a way to harness the talent and genius we see inside them. Art can bring life to corridors, and I'm so happy to be here with the Commerce Department. Thank you, Albert Martinez, and communities across our city. We see this at work every single day. In Philadelphia, public art transforms empty walls and turns them into living, breathing beacons of color and hope in our city. People's stories, once untold, are told in big, bold, beautiful ways, honoring people's legacies, stories, memory, and history. Representation matters in our city, and culture, yes, culture, is part of our everyday lives. We also believe empty storefronts can be transformed into thriving community centers. A perfect example of this is our Tacony Lab, which continues to grow and thrive after 8 years. It's miles from an anchor arts institution. This amazing space offers a wide range of programs and artist residencies, enlivening the Northeast with activations and engagements. We see potential everywhere. And let's remember, our murals are civic assets, and we work hard to maintain them. We are known nationally and internationally as the city of murals, and that is fantastic. 10,000 people come on tours. We have 22 million press impressions from a year. I know that sounds so high. And even Abbott Elementary had an episode called Mural Arts. Quinta Brunson worked on a mural in 7th grade, right? That's amazing. So, and as 2026 draws closer, let's lift up our extraordinary collection of public art and shine a light on it, because the art in our city helps make our city sing. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your investment makes all of this work possible. And just as important, your support helps us leverage every single dollar so we can inspire individuals, foundations, and corporations to multiply the power of that investment. Your commitment in us is an investment in the city, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way we live, and how we dream. No matter what the problem or obstacles are, the truth is I believe, and I believe this from the bottom of my heart, that working together we can make our city a healthy, creative, cooperative, cleaner, greener, and safer place to live. And I am more certain than ever, and I've done this work a long time, I am more certain than ever that art, yes, art, has an essential role in that movement for change and inspiration. As I always say, art ignites change. Thank you.
Talk about bringing the smoke, so. No, that's right. Ms. Martinez, just state your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
Well, I'm going to tame my expectations about our public response for my
Hard act to
testimony.
follow.
Good afternoon, President Johnson and members of City Council. I am Alba Martinez, Director of Commerce, and I am joined today by our Deputy Directors to provide testimony on the fiscal year 2025 operating budget for the Commerce Department. Growing up in Puerto Rico, I never envisioned the opportunities Philadelphia would offer me. My love and gratitude for our city fuels my dedication to ensuring all Philadelphians can achieve their dreams, irrespective of their diversity or background. As a member of Mayor Parker's administration, I commit to work with each of you to make opportunities more plentiful and accessible for your constituents. Philadelphia boasts world-class assets, a dynamic business sector, leading educational institutions, and people with the drive and aspiration to succeed. Businesses, from large corporations to small neighborhood enterprises, form the bedrock of our economy. Our mission at Commerce is to foster an inclusive, globally competitive city through proactive business support, a business-friendly environment, and coordinated attraction and retention efforts. In fiscal year '24, we have achieved notable progress. We expanded the Taking Care of Business cleaning program, enhancing 116 commercial corridors and supporting 250 cleaning ambassador jobs with 39 nonprofit and Black-owned business partners. We are advancing minority firm participation in infrastructure and development contracts via the Supply PHL initiative, and we invested $1 million in Philadelphia Business Lending Network incentive grants, supporting businesses like Top Dog Groomers and Lee's Deli in the 2nd and 3rd districts. We launched the PHL-made grant for local manufacturing companies like Insinger Machine and AA Plasma in the 6th district, as well as a youth seed fund challenge to support young entrepreneurs in the creative economy. We nearly doubled the typical grant amount of the Community Opportunity Real Estate Grant Program, known as CORE, which supports projects like the Frankfurt CDC development at the Transportation Center in the 7th District. We are launching an overnight food truck market in the 1st District to enhance the nighttime economy and are introducing the Liberty Bell Safe Certification Program to improve safety in nightlife areas. We invested $500,000 in grants to enhance the safety and appeal of commercial corridors, such as the Mural and Lighting Project by Mount Airy CDC at Zaz Ice Cream in the 8th District. We dispersed $270,000 in Quality Jobs Program grants to create 54 jobs with living wages and health benefits. With our Streetscapes programs, we are enhancing the visual and functional appeal of key thoroughfares like Broad, Germantown, and Erie. Our Office of Business Services continues serving as a resource for about 4,000 businesses annually, with dedicated representatives for each council district. Looking ahead, we aim to position Philadelphia as a premier business destination by working in a coordinated, disciplined manner with our partners across government, business, and the community. Through our new Open for Business initiative, we aim to streamline processes and foster a business-friendly environment that will make it easier to do business with our government. Through our expansion of Taking Care of Business, a crucial part of the administration's Clean and Green agenda, we will continue revitalizing and enhancing commercial corridors with a focus on underserved areas like Kensington. To boost our attraction efforts, we want to promote our business brand with a Bring Your Business to Philly message that celebrates our city's many strengths and highlights the exceptional businesses that are already here in sectors like life sciences, education, healthcare, and advanced manufacturing. To expand business access to information and resources, we will refine and deepen our community outreach strategies and will launch a user-friendly digital business hub available 24/7, 365. We aim to introduce an ROI-driven workforce system framework that will more efficiently meet business needs and align our city's talent with apprenticeships, training, and jobs that lead to financial mobility. The proposed general fund budget of $46,807,708, reflecting an increase of $7,144,414 over the previous year, will enable us to implement these initiatives and continue our foundational work. Thank you, and we welcome your questions and insights at this time.
Thank you.
Oh.
So we're going to get right into it. For all the young people who are here representing Mural Arts, can you please stand? Got some young people that came out to be supportive. Let's give them a round of applause, please. We had another group of young people who was here, and it's just critically important to acknowledge them because they're in the right place at the right time. They do not have to be here. They could be somewhere else, doing something totally different, getting involved in all types of other things. And so I just want to acknowledge their presence. And so I want to be very, very brief because I want to turn over to my members because I know they have a lot of questions. But I did see the departments, the administration, slash your budget by $1 million. And so this gives us an idea of what program services are no longer being funded, the impact of those programs, and most importantly, considering the wide popularity and demand for murals throughout Philadelphia, how sufficient is the funding to meet the demand for art in public spaces? So the cuts and the impact from those cuts, and then also, based upon a demand, how are we going to go about being supportive and sufficient in terms of those initiatives. And I just want to say just real quickly, I just left Phoenix Prison about 3 weeks ago for the FACT program, Fathers and Children Together. And as soon as you walk into that complex, the beautiful Mural was in the back, and then talking to the young men, we're very, very proud of the work that they're doing with Mural Arts. So it's very, very therapeutic. And then also I would hope and I would think as a part of the agenda to create Philadelphia to be the safest, cleanest, greenest city with economic opportunity for everybody, that hopefully there's a conversation where Mural Arts can be a part of that clean and green initiative. When I'm going to and out of the city of Philadelphia along I-76 east and west, right, the amount of graffiti that I see on both sides of the expressway, right, is very, very demoralizing, to be quite frank. And I would just think that if we had beautiful murals that align the expressway, I think it would just boost morale, right? And I don't know who owns that part, maybe PennDOT, and then I also see when you're going toward the zoo, and you also have Amtrak, right? Again, along the expressway, like maybe we partner with them and they allow us to kind of beautify the area. I just think that lifts morale up and a sense of pride as a city. And I come from the era of Bill Clinton and Colin Powell and Americans Promise, where we actually toured Germantown Avenue, right? And we did the Mural tour to kind of see all the beauty that the city of Philadelphia has to offer. So hopefully there's some synergy there to make you a part of a key component of making the city clean and green, but also beautiful. And so with that being said, Ms. Jane Golden, I will turn it back over to you to answer those 2 questions, and I'll turn it back over to my members.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for those points. And I want to say, you are an official wall hunter, President Johnson, because you noticed those great walls. It's true, 76, 95, and there is a graffiti problem. It's grown and grown, and CLIP does a remarkable job. But, you know, I think we also need to work on changing behavior, right? Because we can clean and clean and clean, but what we saw at the Anti-Graffiti Network is that a lot of young people were rerouted because they got to see that they actually had talent and skills that had just gone unrecognized. And we say recognize it, and let's provide options. So I've been in conversation with Director Carlton Williams, which is very exciting because we've known each other from back in the day, and we are cooking up some ideas, which is super exciting. And we gave him a proposal with us with like 5,000 ideas, and we could do this and this, because when we heard Mayor Parker say clean and green and beautiful and safe, and it's like that just made our hearts sing, honestly. So we would like nothing more. It would be fantastic. Like, let's marshal the energy of young people and have more public art in our city and along those major corridors. Yay, major corridors, Alba Martinez. And so I think rethinking an anti-graffiti network would be it's an opportune time as we look to 2026. And then, about, the reduction, to answer your question, I mean, we will work with City Council and the Mayor's office to do the best we can with what we have and try to leverage and raise money and just, we do this is like, in all honesty, like for me, and I'll speak for my colleagues at Mural Arts, it's not really just a job, it's like a moral imperative to do right by the citizens of the city. Like, I feel it's such a privilege to do this work, to wake up in the morning and do work that has real meaning and that you feel connects with people everywhere. It's like such an honor. And so we'll figure it out, and we'll figure it out together somehow. But we're here, and we're completely committed.
Okay, awesome.
I don't know if that answered the question.
No, you didn't, but I just want to real quickly, so I can turn it over to my members, but like in all seriousness, that $1 million cut impacts what areas?
Could you?
The $1 million cut, you have been cut $1 million, so
That's correct.
which services are being impacted?
Well, I would say, we will have to do less Color Me Back, the Guild, new murals, restorations. I mean, it's all, yeah, they would all be vulnerable. And that's why we want to work as hard as we can with all of you to try to see what can happen.
Okay.
And to, you know.
Understood, Jane. Say less.
But I feel like, you know, we are very determined. You know, the work is so important, so we really want to see what we can do to not just actually keep it at what it is, but we want to see it expanded. So with whatever funds we get, we will do our best to like leverage it, stretch it, and do good work.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. So starting this round off, the chair recognizes Councilmember Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Council President. First question. I hope this is not a hard question for Jane Golden. We and a lot of district council members are ecstatic about murals, right, and what they do to create beautification for our city. In particular, what a mural does oftentimes, it gives, I guess, a neighborhood a sense of pride that this belongs to us, right? How can we facilitate the completion of at least 2 murals annually in each council district, and this is beyond a rebuild project, but at least 2 murals annually that we can have in each council district? What strategies does that take? Yeah.
Well, it would, you know, first, thank you for the question. And we do have, the one thing that's wonderful about Philly is that there are murals everywhere and that we have a really big waiting list. And that's good because, as you said that beautifully, there is an appetite for public art in our city, which is great. I will say, Council President Johnson, with the cut, we do go down in what we can do. So really, it's about funding. And the thing is, whatever funding we get from the city, you know we're going to go raise extra money and we're going to leverage it. But we will go from 75 down to probably 50-something or 60 murals. I mean, that's just the truth of when you have funding and then you don't have funding. So that's why the funding is really important. And if you look at every project we do, there's a little bit of private money and public money because we never want to be overly reliant on any one sector. So we're busy bees trying to leverage. But,
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I think there's an appetite. If you present the data on what something like this would take to happen, our neighbors would not only love it, but we could potentially find ways to make that happen. So it's about streamlining the process so you could say how much this would cost to make that happen.
Well, we can do,
roughly.
We could submit a proposal, we could give you the data of what it would take.
All right, that'd be helpful. And then I have a question for Commerce. We have, in every council meta district, we have avenues and commercial corridors. Is the Commerce Department committed to doing like a round table or not a round table, a symposium in each council meta district without us having to organize it as council members for small businesses in our neighborhood to provide resources, provide information about technical support, opportunities for small businesses to expand their operations, as well as other services that the Commerce Department has available?
Thank you for that question. I'm going to ask Jane to help me answer. Just kidding. So first of all, thank you for the question. The short answer is absolutely yes. And the slightly longer answer is that it's consistent with our commitment to deepening our outreach strategies and our approaches, and we're piloting something that we're calling Commerce in the Community, to going straight into the neighborhoods, into spaces where we feel people have not traditionally seen the Commerce Department, and engaging people in learning and networking and connecting to resources. And at the end of the workshop, we're providing office hours. We're doing that in the 7th District once a month. We'll do it for the second time on Friday. We had 60 people come out the first time. We're having community members do the outreach for us, and we would love to see that extend into every council district. It would be an honor to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, because what I was trying to get at is I don't want us to have to initiate it. I want you to call me and say, this is what we want to do, right? And we can collaborate. And you already have it together, and we just provide the input. And I think that would be really helpful for a lot of our small businesses. I mean, I just think that's helpful for a lot of folks. Lastly, how are we improving accessibility to grant and loan process for a lot of our small businesses? Additionally, how can the department assist in facilitating more access to loans and grants for our small businesses? I'm not sure if they're very much aware of this and how well we advertise a lot of the small the grants that are available, as well as the low interest loans that are available too.
So I'll start with a short answer and then ask Deputy Director Yvonne Boy to go deeper with the details. Fundamentally, outreach is something that we need to continuously improve, assess how we are, who we're reaching by zip code. I believe that that's important analysis that we need to do. And then we need to affirmatively target zip codes where we are not being as effective reaching people. Second of all, we are going to step up our efforts in terms of reaching people digitally through a resource hub that we're creating. And thirdly, I'll mention communications and marketing. We do have an infrastructure that is fairly new in the Commerce Department, and we think that we can definitely reach more people by deepening the utilization and the effectiveness of our social media strategies. Yvonne.
Thank you. Yvonne Boy, Deputy Commerce Director. I lead the Office of Neighborhood Economic Development. Thank you for your question. One of the things that is at the heart of what the Commerce Department does is to provide opportunity to communities and businesses that have otherwise not had opportunity. And so we have an array of programs that improve the access to the funds. No matter how much funding is available, if the opportunity and the access is not available, they don't get it. So we work very closely with the CDFI network, which is the Community Financial Development Institutions, who fund small businesses, and mostly in the neighborhoods, and businesses that do not usually have access. So we work with them very closely. We meet with them and exchange ideas as to the best ways to do this. We also fund community development financial institutions so that the underwriting criteria might be better tailored to the businesses that have issues accessing regular modes of financing. We also have the Philadelphia Business Lending Network, which is a portal which eases the access for small and micro businesses to have towards reaching lenders. We have about 33 lenders in that network right now, and so they fill one form of interest, and we farm it out to 33 lenders. And that is an innovative way in which we are able to do that. And we now add access to grants to incentivize the lenders to do that. We have also technical assistance to help the businesses get ready to access the capital. I hope that answers your question.
It does. I just want to say that's the bell. I had a quick statement. Hopefully, I think another council member is probably going to bring this up, but we do have skyscrapers in Center City, Philadelphia, that are nearing being empty or going to be empty soon. And I just want to make sure Commerce has a plan to build relationships that's going to help us make sure that those skyscrapers are not going to be empty in the coming years.
Thank you. Just for a little housekeeping rules, just ask for members to be succinct and direct with their questioning, because we have a whole list of members who would like to get through this round. And with that being, the chair recognizes Councilmember Jim Harity.
Thank you, Council President. Hello, how's everybody doing this afternoon? Thank you for waiting around for so long. My things are for Jane. Jane, I just got to tell you, I've known you since the early to mid 90s, and you haven't changed a bit. You still have the same energy. When, I had the honor of being the assistant managing director for your program during the street administration. And I remember when we had the kids on North Broad Street for the after-school program. And just to see how much that has grown over the years is just amazing. And, you know, the thing with you is the budget money you get goes a long way because, as you said, you raise extra money, you go out of your way to make this a beautiful city, and we appreciate that. I'd just like to, I'm still waiting for my mural for Marvin Harrison, you know, NFL, All-Pro, Hall of Fame. All right, but just if you could tell us a little bit about the stuff you're doing in Kensington, with the Porch Light program and stuff like that. If you could just give us a little bit more information on that and how that's going.
Well, we're working with about, I think this is sort of one of the secrets. People don't know this about Mural Arts, but we, through Porch Light, we've been in Kensington for about 10 years working. We're working at schools, we're working at rec centers, we're working with different social service agencies. We're servicing about 7,000 people every year. We're also doing a major project with a well-known artist, Roberto Lugo, who is from Kensington, and we're building these giant vessels. He's a ceramicist, and so it's going to enliven public space, and we have a mobile pottery studio, so we're going to be having workshops all throughout Kensington, and our charge to ourselves is to work with seniors, work with young people, and everybody in between with all kinds of programming. And then we have a space at K&A, and that's where Color Me Back meets, but it's also an art space that's really lively and wonderful and means a lot for the Avenue. So it's like, what I think about is like, how do we create individual change and community change at the same time and link them up? But to answer President Johnson's question to me, which I should have answered more directly, Kensington will close because of $1 million loss. We will not be able to stay there with Porch Light. So that is, I know, I should have said that in the first place. I'm really sorry. I was trying to be really positive.
Hey, sometimes you have to be honest in order to get your point across.
Yeah.
These are programs that are needed, especially in a neighborhood that really needs programs for our kids, stuff for our kids to do that show them that, you know, they can be somebody. I remember this program started out at anti-graffiti, as they stated earlier, you know, and I remember a lot of my friends getting put into anti-graffiti's group, and that's when we first started the murals back in the day, was with the kids that were tagging.
That's
and we
exactly
showed
right.
them that there was another way, and I believe that's what we need to do.
Oh, we also have something else. We have a gun buyback program that we're doing, and we're going to be working heavily in Kensington, and then the guns will be melted down, and we're creating a public sculpture that is a tribute to public safety in our city.
Wow.
So again, how do we use art in the most innovative way possible to impact people and impact the community, and to deal with the really serious issues? We feel every issue that's on your plate and the mayor's plate, that's an issue we should be thinking about through the lens of art, but we can be aspirational and pragmatic at the same time.
Yeah, and it's just not art, it's programs, it's kids, it's adults, it's seniors. Okay. How many artists are employed?
Well, we're very proud of this statistic. It's 250 artists are employed every year, and it's a very, very diverse group of artists, and we're proud of that as well. And we have a fellowship program for Black artists, we have an internship program, an apprenticeship program, a muralist training program, so we've really worked hard to create platforms and a foundation for artists to come into mural arts and work in public space. If you look at public art historically, it's been very effete, and sort of, you know, there's been like sort of hands up, but I think anti-graffiti and mural arts have caused a paradigm shift where we value equity and that we want people to come in the door that aren't necessarily classically trained. And so we have a small walls project, we're doing big projects and everything in between, but we want to mine the creative spirit that exists in our city and put it to work in tangible ways.
Yeah, it's got to make the kids feel good to look up and see something that they did.
Yes. Exactly. So people in our guild program or our art education program or porch light program, when you look around at the huge collection of public art in this city, it is not just made by one classically trained artist. I mean, sometimes they are at the top of the food chain, but there's so many other people involved, and it's also economic development. It's getting money in people's pockets to do something that they love and is transformative for the community. So it's a quintessential multitasker.
Love it. Thank
Thank you. Councilman Curtis Jones.
Nicely done, Mr. President. So let me quickly say I love you, Jane Golden. I've been with you for a long ride since Tim Spencer days, and I know how it's grown. My son actually did murals once upon a time on the expressway, Mr. President. And so thank you for that. Thank you for the Container Village and all you're doing out there. I love the Commerce Department as well. Equal love. Let me say all of the good things. You guys have worked on the over 100 commercial corridors, doing wonderful things, keeping them alive through uprisings, through pandemics. You worked well with PIDC to filter and create those loans. You worked with small businesses in order to kind of reconstruct records so they could get loans. So amen to that and welcome on board. Mr. President, who introduced the resolution to look at affirmative action and inclusion for, who was that? Was it you, Jamie? No, for the city of Philadelphia to determine if we, because what I may wait until that resolution's hearing, and here's why. As a former alumni of Commerce Department, as a former director of the Philadelphia Commercial Development Corporation, as a former director of the Minority Business Enterprise Council, I am not convinced that we are on the right path with that inclusion of DBEs, MBEs, and female-owned businesses. So I don't want to take that time today. I'd rather just talk about the wonderful things you do and say thank you. But I want to have a deeper dive to see if we are not watering down the old 17,500 and now post-17,500 Croson decision impacts. For example, when was the last disparity study done? And who performed it?
Good afternoon, Council President, members of City Council. Thank you, Councilman Jones, for that question.
Move that mic a little closer.
The last full disparity comprehensive. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Lynn Newsom, Deputy Commerce Director for the Office of Economic Opportunity. The last full disparity study was done sometime in the late 90s. We do it in the late 90s, the first full comprehensive disparity study. We do an annual study that we call a disparity study, but it's a participation report.
That concerns me because I know the legalities of this, and I want to work with your department to talk about that as a former director whose name was on the lawsuit that ended it as we know. I want to make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, and that we're on a good trajectory for a lot of things. But what is the amount of participation for minority businesses, female business, disadvantaged business under construction, for example?
We do have those numbers. I'll have to get those to you. I don't have them
Say it
right
again?
here. We do have those numbers. I'll have to get them to you.
All right, so I won't
We do
repeat
have a- we have a-
supply services and
Yeah.
equipment. I won't say professional services. But those are the kinds of numbers, when you come here, have them.
Okay.
Because there is a commitment from the mayor, but also from the president and members of council, that this is what we want to see. And you're doing a great job with the lending. I was on the board of PIDC, Mr. President, and so I know what you did, and I know what you guys did, and I'm thankful for what you did in my district. And I used to relish the idea, oh, that's one of mine, that's in my district, I know where this is. So thank you for that. But what we have to do is make sure that contracts are given in a fair way. We dealt with, under the last administration, the loss of the Triangle security complex. Say it again. And it was a big deal. It was probably the largest contract received by a minority company that we had on the record. And it went to a company out of Chicago for whatever reason. We want to, I love what the Commerce Department does. We want to dig deep on this. And so I look forward to working with you. I look forward to making sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I know that department really well. And I'm going to end on this, Mr. President. And some of the institutional memory is leaving. And if you don't remember certain things, then you're doomed to repeat it. And so we're going to look, I'm just telling you, this is one of the callbacks. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Councilman, just really briefly, we will get you those numbers. I want to acknowledge and thank the Office of Economic Opportunity in the City of Philadelphia for being a champion and a watchdog and an advocate. You know, there's a number of different opportunity pockets for minority and economically disadvantaged businesses, right? They include city contracting. They also include private sector contracting, which at least a group of companies under the PAGE, that are part of the PAGE initiative, together represent $6 billion in purchasing opportunity, and the minority participation is under 10% there. And thirdly, there is, as you mentioned, the construction and the infrastructure bucket of work. And I would say that no matter where we look, we will share the numbers, they're not good enough. So I will, you know, what we are in agreement with is we need to do better, we need to do it faster, we need to understand why it's taking so long, where the complexity is. I think we're aimed in the right direction, and I feel in my 100 days in that the components are there, but we need to find a way to accelerate our impact. And so you have our commitment that we are going to be looking with our partners on how do we accelerate our impact, including with our partners from the Office of Minority Business Success, who are sitting here today and are hearing your message loud and clear. Yes.
Can I add something? Yeah, we did realize $69 million more in MBEW spend this year in fiscal year.
You got to come closer.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, we intimidate, but we don't mean to.
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So we did realize $69 million more in MBEW spend in fiscal year '23, up from fiscal year '22. I just don't have the breakdown of whether it's construction or right here in front of me. But we do have those numbers. We have a comprehensive report that reports all that, and I just don't have that right here before me.
That's all right. Okay. We gave you, you're going to get called back, you're going to get special. It's just going to be you. All right, thank you, Mr. President.
So we're going to do a callback for the record, and the actual resolution that Councilmember Jones is referring to is the Special Committee on Diversity, Equity, Inclusion that's being put together to look at how we're making sure we're addressing our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, our strategies, and most importantly, making sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure that the contracts that we're providing overall are diverse and inclusive. The chair recognizes Councilmember Kendra Brooks.
Council President, I think most of my colleagues have already have a concern about this $1 million cut, so I'm gonna just be direct. I wonder, how would it affect the programs like the Budget 101 workshops that we have been doing over the last couple of years? And the other one is, how would it affect programming that works around potential career pathways for children and folks that were formerly incarcerated, which are all programs that I've worked very closely with you on?
Well, and I just want to thank you for your support and support with the people's budget. It's been like far more successful than ever I could imagine. I'm very grateful to Phoebe Bachman, who's here, who leads that project. And Councilmember, your support has just been invaluable. It probably, I mean, I don't know whether it can happen. You know, it's $1 million, it's a large reduction. So we're really grappling with it right now, trying to figure out like what do we do? Where do we turn? You know, I can tell you the number of projects will go down. The number of people we serve in restorative justice will go down. Color Me Back will be hurt very hard if Kensington closes, and and the Tacony Lab will for sure close. So it will be our budget is not that big, and so, you know, just the math, it's substantial. We're determined, and I try every day to find hope, and working with all of you and the mayor's office and tying in with the new initiatives and to see what we can do. But I would be disingenuous if I would say to you that there is not going to be some pain.
Thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Jamie Gaudier.
Thank you, Council President. Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for the work of you and your team. I have a question about, you know, what policies or plans are we thinking about to protect murals that are at risk of being covered or even being dismantled due to development as our neighborhoods grow and change? And, you know, I've come across this several times in my district, and every mural is significant, right? And so that's the issue. I remember at 40th and Lancaster, for example, we had to negotiate quite hard to save a mural of Martin Luther King Jr. In the historic place where he came to, you know, visit Philadelphia and give a monumental speech. We also had to fight hard to try to protect a mural of the Negro Baseball League on Parkside Avenue, and the community was even told by the developer that he will save the mural if they support his variance, which is completely just, you know, over the line. What are we doing to protect our cherished murals and make sure that our community members are not in that position?
Thank you for that really excellent question. And thank you for your support with the projects, especially the project with Dr. King. And there is a victory in that there will be a mural there on that new building. But the citizens of Philly need to be our eyes and ears to let us know when development is going to happen, because we need to be able to talk to the developer and really get them to understand that murals are civic assets. And I remember, Council President, in Point Breeze, remember when the Stop the Violence mural was whited out, and I remember the block captain saying, we feel like our lives are being erased when murals go away. That has stayed with me all these years, and we are determined to make sure we don't want to stand in the way of economic development, but we can walk and chew gum. We can multitask in our city. We can stand for, we want, you know, good economics. We also want a city that is filled with public art that represents the citizens of Philadelphia. And so we're determined to try to do something. I think it would be great. I know that Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, we talked years ago about, could we introduce an amendment that would sort of get developers, at least they could notify Mural Arts, and we would know that we could be in conversation with them. Is there anything that we can do, you know, to try to bring some sanity to this? Because murals are going away quickly, and it's hard for us to keep up with that. And we're good detectives, and we track people down, and we talk to people, and I have like a stalking list, and we try to do as much as we can, but we're just, you know, we're just us. And so any ideas that you have, we'd be so open to. And very eager to talk about it, because I just feel like I don't want to happen. What happened in LA is there was a period of time where so many murals were lost. It was like generations of people's identities and thinking and history was just, it became invisible, and it was startling. And someone called it they said it was a cemetery of murals in Los Angeles. And that's when Philly's growth was really going up. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 that can never happen in Philadelphia. So whatever we need to do, we should do it collectively and try to protect our public art. And again, thank you.
We'd love to think about that with you. And just to get on the record, we don't have to talk about it today, but for Commerce, I'm particularly interested in if this budget proposal takes us back to full funding. We cut a lot of staff and programming from Commerce during the pandemic. We saw a mass exodus, about a year ago of staff, and I just want to look at how this budget positions Commerce to carry out its very important work. But maybe that's something for the callback.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Councilman Rulanda.
Thank you, Council President. Yay art, yay commerce, yay to both of you. I have 3 commerce questions and 2 arts questions. So I'll start with commerce. We've heard a lot about how small businesses, immigrant businesses have trouble navigating the commerce system, figuring out what permits to get, when to get a health department in, when to get a license in and whatnot. Can you talk about how you plan to help small businesses navigate that system better? And then, like I'm doing to everybody throughout this process, I want to give you an idea that I have that I think is a good.
Okay, great. Well, I look forward to that. And I would say that we need to help every business improve the way they interact with the city, because time is money. You know, when we talk about being competitive in the city of Philadelphia, we often mention taxes as the, primary or one of the primary issues, and time and efficiency not only shows respect, but it truly has economic impact on people. And the individuals that you're talking about, folks who are maybe, immigrant businesses or smaller businesses, startup businesses, have the least amount of time to waste and the least amount of capital to utilize in these things. So the Open for Business initiative, which is new in this budget, and we've been doing this work for the past, but we're going to double down in this space of making Philadelphia a world-class, user-friendly place for businesses to engage with us. Will reach those types of businesses, the smaller and micro businesses, Councilwoman Landau, because it's the right thing for us to do, and they represent a significant and growing part of our population. And so if we position ourselves in a brand that says we are user-friendly to every type of business, it is going to help us attract new businesses. I'd like to ask Deputy Director Fegley to add what she has to say to this point.
Hi, Karen Fegley, Deputy Commerce Director. I think Director Martinez hit on a lot of it. We were really excited for the Mayor's Open for Business initiative. It does sort of double down on what we've been doing. We created a business advocacy team in Commerce last year, and this is really the work of Commerce forever, right, is to make it easier to do business, to make Philadelphia a place people want to do business and that they can succeed at that. And it's hard to do. It takes bravery to be an entrepreneur, right? It's hard to do business, and I'm going to steal a line I heard from someone, but it shouldn't be that you need, a trust fund or a law degree to open a business. So we want to make it easy for people to pursue their dreams and pursue the opportunity for success. We're getting into the nitty-gritty. I mean, we have started this work already. We had, in the last 2 days, we had workshops with multiple departments where we're doing the tedious work of sort of mapping out the processes for each permit, for each license, for each business type. And we think there's definitely a lot of opportunity for improvement. Some of it sits between departments. I think some of you can imagine, when you go from revenue to L&I or to health, or, there's some opportunity to streamline some of those steps, and we're really excited about that.
That is great, and we know that our successful small businesses might be our large businesses if we do it right. So that is great news. So my idea is, hopefully you can think about this one, is now your business advocacy team, Have you thought about having each one of them having almost like a docket of small businesses? So they know these are the 30 businesses that they're handling and help them through the process. To tell them, hey, did you know your license is due next week? Or, reminder, call the health department. So there's a back and forth and one person for them to touch each time.
I like that idea. We
Thank
did
you.
have, we didn't mention, we should have said, the other thing the Commerce Department has is our Office of Business Services. So we have a business services hotline. I know you get it, we advertise it to all of you every time, but we want every business in the city, anybody thinking about doing a business in the city, to always call us first so that we can give that one-on-one, real hand-holding assistance. But, and we do have those folks that are, they're designated geographically, so they each have areas where they, where they focus on. But I like this idea of, we
Thank
could
you.
maybe make more of a...
This has been my budget hearing. No,
dedicated-
just kidding, a couple more. Second question is, there's a significant investment in TCB, which is great. We all want the cleaner Philadelphia. How does that look? Who's going to oversee that at Commerce? And what does that look like for your management, since they're contractors and not city employees? And then the second question is there a pathway to get them into long-term city jobs with pensions and great benefits and all of that?
Thanks for that question. My name's Dennis Murphy. I'm a Deputy Commerce Director, and I lead the Office of Corridor Improvements and Business Services. So we're very excited about the expansion of the TCB program. One thing that gives me confidence is this is kind of a second phase. So starting in 2020, we had been operating a program like this, but Councilwoman Parker championed more funding, and we were able to grow it. And I hope that all of you have seen the impact of that work. We have individuals working throughout the city in uniform, 250 workers, 39 organizations, very visible. And this is a scaling up of that effort. In terms of management, that's led and managed within my team in partnership with Deputy Director Yvonne Boy. And we do the contracting, and we do the invoice review and training and support to our groups. And then you asked about pathways. That's something that we're really excited about, collaborating with Carlton Williams' team in sanitation. And we've talked a lot about that. We've had a lot of informal kind of referral into CLIP, where we've had our workers who have secured those jobs. And we think that that's something that we can really build on and formalize. So we're excited about it. And we share that same vision, and that's been really important to the mayor. She's really talked about that.
Excellent, that's great. And then the third question is, what exactly is the Business Roundtable, and why does it not reside under Commerce? What different work does that do versus what you do?
Well, I think the business roundtables are complementary to Commerce's work. My understanding of the business roundtables is that the mayor wants to have a direct line of communication with business leaders. I too have a direct line of communication with business leaders in the city, but she wants to elevate that communication directly to her and to have a structure and a forum in which to do that. So it's additive. I don't think it's duplicative. And in addition to that, I would envision that Commerce would bring strategies and ideas to the Business Roundtable as an additional forum to provide input and feedback and critique. So that would be my thoughts, but probably more questions around that to the head of the Business Roundtables would be appropriate. Yes.
I'm going to defer to the member.
Okay, no, I would love to move on to mural arts, so did you want to respond?
No, pass your time. And then we're doing an official call back.
Thank
but
you.
I would think that it would be the head of Commerce that would actually do a roundtable yourself. But again, we're all here for it in terms of support standpoint, but I would think that would be you work for me, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go work with all the chambers, and you're going to meet with them once a month to talk about strategies and moving the city of Philadelphia forward. But that's just the Kenyatta Johnson model, following up on what Councilman Rue Landau said. And so, but we'll get do a deeper dive when we do our callback. At the moment, I'd like to acknowledge Councilmember Nicholas O'Rourke.
Thank you, Council President. Director Martinez, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Making sure that commercial areas are accessible is a fantastic goal, especially in preparation for 2026, where Philadelphia is hosting everything. I noticed that there is a significant increase in street cleaning through the Taking Care of Business program. My understanding is that this program contracts out to outside organizations to clean shopping districts. Can you help me understand the logic why the admin is giving many TCB street cleaning jobs to outside organizations, probably non-unionized, instead of funneling them through sanitation department?
Deputy Director Murphy, I'm sure will add to what I have to say, but from what I have seen, these jobs tend to go to neighborhood residents, many of whom are unemployed or underemployed, including a number of them being individuals who are returning from incarceration. So the way that I understand it is that it becomes a pipeline into other jobs, right? It could be a destination job for some, but fundamentally it creates a situation where individuals are acquiring the experience, the skill set, and the habits so that when they compete for city jobs, they will get them, right? It increases their chances of success. Deputy Director?
Thanks, Councilman, for your question. I think the other thing that I would add is that this work is done, most of our contracted groups are community-based organizations. So what we've found is that the cleaning activity, the individuals that work on those cleaning teams, they're situated within a mission-driven community improvement type neighborhood-based organization where they're in uniform, they're working as part of a team, and they're like an extension of that community's stewardship and care for the neighborhood that they live in. So that's a model that I think we've seen a lot of power in that model. And I think that that's one feature of the program, too, that sometimes gets overlooked. So.
I really do respect the focus on persons out of the community being able to get those jobs, in a sense, almost like a pathway to a guaranteed job of some sort, which I think is really brilliant. I do think, though, that when we subcontract, then we are losing accountability as a city and reins on the quality of that work and that labor. And so that might be something worth considering. We're giving outside organizations $13.5 million in terms of the contract instead of investing in our own workforce and taking up those jobs. So I think that's something really to kind of look at, but I'll move on because I know that we don't have a whole lot of time. In 2022, bless you, in 2022, the Division of Workforce Solutions gave out workforce solution grants. One grant was for PEA's Green Retrofit Immersive Training Program, GRIT. The program provided training and hands-on experience rehabilitating affordable housing and green home retrofits, which is the kind of opportunity that I think that we should seize to create jobs, fight the climate crisis, and develop out the green infrastructure to be able to sustain for the future. Can you talk about what the Workforce Solutions Division is working on to build on that work, Director Martinez, and help us create that green economy workforce?
Good evening, Dawn Somerville, Deputy Commerce Director. Thank you for that question, Councilmember O'Rourke.
Good evening.
Currently, the Workforce Division has worked with sustainability, the Office of Sustainability. When we're speaking about energy or green jobs, currently that office is looking to do a landscape analysis that would take a look at the jobs specifically in direct energy retrofit for workforce, solar installers, as well as adjacent occupations like general contractors. Right now, I think it's a look at the landscape. of what the impact can be for those opportunities, for those jobs. We are in a partnership with the Office of Sustainability for that, and that's being led by our Senior Director, Gianna Grossman, who leads workforce in that space.
Awesome. And how are we making sure that those jobs are union jobs?
Pardon me?
How can we make sure that those jobs are union jobs that benefit the communities that are most impacted by climate change?
How can we make sure they're union jobs? I think from the impact study that we'll be doing, we'll take a look at if those are union jobs. But when we're talking about contractors, general contractors, most likely those will be directly linked to union opportunities.
Okay, thank you very much. Council President, my
Thank
next
you.
questions were for Ms. Golden. I can not ask them, but I would like to. Half a question. I was struck by the restorative justice programming that you all are doing, and just wanted to hear more about both what you mentioned earlier, the Color Me Back program and the Guild. Specifically, how many people does Mural Arts employ through same-day pay initiatives? And does participation help folks access longer-term full-time employment?
Well, we've talked to Councilmember Thomas about trying to line people up for city jobs, something that we're very eager to explore. And we have actually built in all kinds of new programs recently that involve all kinds of trainings and visiting like artists and entrepreneurs and trying to make it as practical as possible beyond painting, creating public art. So we have in 2007, 2008, we started working in the state prison in 2002 and the county jail. In 2007, we asked ourselves, what are we doing for people coming home? And the answer was not too much. So we were able to get some city money, and Council President Johnson knows this, we got some city money that seeded our Guild program. And we called it the Guild because of the Renaissance, that we would have trainings and create public art. And it was very popular, the low recidivism rate and a high percentage of people moving on to jobs. A lot of people would like to stay with Mural Arts, so we created something called the Rec Crew, which is a more advanced program where we're transforming recreation centers. And I could hear from your colleagues today how many people were saying they're recreation centers that need beauty, right? And so there's lots of needs. It's working with pavers and mosaics and doing murals and building cubbies and benches. There's no end to what we can do to bring beauty to these sites. So what we're trying to do is build skills, create pathways, and provide Philadelphia with public art created by these constituents. And so it's about, because of our budget, we're serving about 100 people a year in our restorative justice program, and then about 30 people out at the state prison. And that sort of ebbs and flows depending on budget. And then in Color Me Back, because of City Council, actually, we've been able to expand that, where we're able to reach it's about anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 people a year. Again, bringing in career link, social services, and trying to, for many people, it's really preparing people for a job, right? Think of us as like that pre-apprenticeship program that gets you ready for that next step. And that next step could be at Mural Arts. So we've actually employed a lot of people from both Color Me Back and the Guild and the Rec Crew, because we're not an ambivalent employer. We love people, we see the gifts and talents, we're going to do everything we can on your behalf, and we're really super clear about that. And then what we want more than anything is to find a pathway, support people as they move on, and then have them stay in touch with us afterwards, so that you stay part of the Mural Arts family for as long as possible. And evidence of this is in our art education program, where a number of our teaching artists started out at 11 years old and have stayed with us. And they call themselves Mural Arts Lifers because they know we're here, we're by your side, we're not leaving.
We thank you. Thank you for your labor. Thank you for your investment, your work, and what you do. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. In the interest of time, I'm going to save all my questions for Commerce for when we actually do callback, and I'll submit them in writing ahead of time so you have an idea of exactly what we're going to discuss. My shameless plug is that I'm a board member of Mural Arts, so Jane, thank you for all the work that you do. And I want to thank my colleagues, Council Members Bass, Gaudier, Gilmore, Richardson, Lozada, O'Neill, and Squilla. Earlier today, the Appropriations Committee came to a deal with administration to give you $500,000 back of that $1 million that they cut out. So Members of the Appropriation Committee, members of council, of course, we support you. Thank you for all the work that you do, but we know we have more work to do. Council President, I'll submit the rest of my questions in writing, and anybody who's not familiar with the Guild program, I know we have some new members of council. I would highly recommend that you go visit and listen to the testimonies of people as it relates to components of restorative justice, because it's one of the best programs that we have in the city. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I almost started crying today.
Drop that mic.
But we're also going to set up a visit to Phoenix in the fall. We'll have a visit for council to go out there and to see. We have a wonderful art room, and it's really inspiring.
Yes, absolutely. With that being said, and we do have you for callback officially, and so we'll get a chance to do a round 2 officially again with the Commerce Department as well as Mural Arts. And with that being said, are there any other individuals here for public comment on this particular resolution for the Commerce Department and the Mural Arts Department? Hearing none, the chair recognizes Councilmember Isaiah Thomas for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the committee of the whole be in recess until Tuesday, April 9th at 10 a.m.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. And the motion is carried to adjourn till Tuesday, April the 9th at 10 p.m. Thank you very much.